Hello everyone, NadLabs here. Today we're going to be learning how we can make this 3D hexagonal map in the Godot game engine, version 3.3.2 stable, and let's get right into it. So right off the bat, you can see in my scene tree, I have this test world, which is just the parent of the entire scene. We have this map node, which actually holds all of our tiles. I'll explain why we don't see them in the scene tree in a second. We have our Omnilight, which just illuminates the scene up, and we have this test camera, which I actually made a video on earlier, or I made a video about it a long time ago, which explains how to move around in 3D space. Other than that, we're free to get started. But before that, we actually need our hexagonal tiles. As you can see over here, we need a tile to play around with. And Godot, as to my current knowledge, does not actually offer any hexagonal structures in its default primitives. You could theoretically make this cylinder a hexagon. As you can see over here, you can theoretically make this cylinder a hexagon. But I prefer just hopping into Blender really quickly. And you basically go into Blender, click Shift A to add something. You go over here to circle, and you basically bring down the vertices to 6. And then you can just click, if you tab into edit mode, click F, you can create a face. And then if you want to, which I prefer and strongly recommend, you have your tiles. Basically, you would press I to indent your tiles, and then you would just inset the inside a little bit, invert your selection. And I'm not the best Blender user ever, and you could make a little tile like that. Or you could do something like I did over here, where I basically have my tiles like have a small rim around them, very similar to what I did over here. But anyway, of course, this project will be on GitHub, so you can download the model of this hexagon if you want yourself. But that being said, we can go over here to our hexagon scene, and we can see it's just a spatial followed by a mesh instance. The issue is not with the hexagon themselves, but how we're going to be placing them. Because if I go over here to the side really quickly, and I actually try instancing our hexagon scene, the exact same one up here, and I just try snapping it to, let's say, negative 10, and I try placing a hexagon next to it, kind of like this. The issue is I can never ever get them to line up properly, and that's because when I was actually trying to search this up, someone already tried asking that, and basically one of the answers was, you can't do that. You have to see over here, you have to have them hacked to work together, but in the 3D tile map, or you could just place them yourself, and it's not a Godot specific thing. And when I go to this website over here, I'm greeted with this amazing diagram and these amazing illustrations of how hexagon maps work. And essentially in this text over here on redblobgames.com, it says that to create the hexagon, we have to basically place them down with the width, or at least they have to have a width with square root 3 times size and height of 2 times size. So taking this into account, we can basically hop into Godot and go to our map scene. Let me just go to the origin, go to our map scene, and we can program some very simple ideas. So essentially, if our size is going to be 1, our width, if I go over here, our width is going to be square root 3 times size, and our width is exactly square root 3 times size. Our height is going to be 2 times size. Just ignore this minus 0.01 for a bit, and ignore the offset as well. We don't need them right now. And over here at the top, I have a tool keyword, and that's just to help me see them inside of the editor, like over here, instead of just at runtime. It just helps with prototyping and quickly doing stuff. We get rid of this mesh instance. And over here, I'm just going to be programming how we could generate the map. So one way you could do that is we could generate a function, or we can make a function to make our map. And as you can see over here, if we just create a very simple for loop, or a nested for loop, where we just loop over in like x and the y direction, or x and z direction, same idea, we can just instantiate a hexagon scene, which is essentially our hexagon with our mesh instance on them that we created in Blender, or you could use the mesh instance provided by Godot in the way I showed. Either one works. And in this if statement, we're basically going to be asking if x modulus 2 is equal to 0, which basically allows us to get even and odd numbers. So as you can see over here, this is odd and this is even. I mean, you could do it the other way around, doesn't matter. It's just the concept of having code run in one segment versus another segment. And as you can see over here, if we just say the hex.globaltransform.origin is equal to w times x, so width times the x position. So the x position is coming from over here. So that just allows us to place them in a order. And as you can see over here, we basically have our tiles, but they're a bit spaced out, a bit too spaced out for anyone's liking, and we can easily change that a bit. So this is going to seem a bit random, but if you basically multiply this h value, and I did this through experimentation, there was no really easy way for me to find this, but if you multiply it by just some number around 0.87, you can see that our problem's fixed, and now we have these tiles lining up next to each other. Although there is a bit of a gap, on some of them. I can explain how to fix that a bit later, but don't worry, the gap will go away eventually if we continue. And then obviously in the odd line or the other line that's being created, we can easily do the exact same thing. As you can see, everything is number for number, everything is the same, except the space, except for actually everything's 100% the same. But when we get here, you can see that it does create a bit of an issue. As you can see over here, the centers of these hexagons are kind of offset. So we actually have to create an offset variable, which I defined over here, and it's going to be half of our width. I made 0.49 to get rid of that spacing, but I'll come back to that in a bit. But essentially our offset is going to be 0.5 times width, and we can essentially just add our offset to the z value. And when we run our scene, not pivset but offset, when we run our scene, you can see that our tiles or hexagons are lining up, but there's still a lot of space between them, and we can fix that. What I found is that if you multiply the x direction by the offset as well, so you just do something like this, it does seem to fix the hexagonal issue, and everything is lining up, or tiling up properly. But we also have this small issue where we have this gap. And if you don't know what gap I'm talking about, if I'm holding W right now, you can see that there's like holes and lines in between the entire system. Like it's, I'll just probably put like a little bit of a picture up, but you can see the issue I'm talking about. And we can fix this with another small tweak by making this 0.49. This should theoretically just get rid of that small gap. And if it doesn't get rid of the small gap, where I do not think, or we got rid of the gap, but it didn't get rid of the gap on a certain axis, only some of the gap is removed, we can just multiply or subtract 0.01 from our h, and just getting rid of that tiny value, make sure it ensures all of these hexagons are fully overlapped, and we have a very flat sheet of hexagons for you to work with in your game. Now you might be wondering, how can I use this in my game? And also, by the way, this tool keyword, if you have this over here and you run your scene, you can see everything's okay. But over here, we have the entire scene over here as well. So I'm just going to get rid of it, and I'm just going to make a new spatial. I'm going to call it map, right? I'm going to add this over here. You can see over here, I don't have the tool keyword, and you can see none of these hexagons are generated. But the second I have that tool keyword, and I close the scene and open it again, we have the entire map generated. Just a quick tip over there. And just some last bit of advice, if you want to take this a bit further, you can go over here to your hexagon, and you can actually add in a position 3D, and you can just leave that there. Or if you want, you can just bring it up a bit so you can see it over here. And essentially, if you just reopen and close this, you can see that now we have a grid to work with Astar on it. If you want to see a Astar tutorial on how to actually pathfind on a hexagonal grid in Godot, I could make that. I'm probably going to be working on that for a game. But essentially, that's something you could take further, and you have the hexagonal system set up, because as you can see from this Godot engine.org post, it's not really clear, or at least since 2017 it hasn't been made clear, and I couldn't find anything about it either. But this post was really helpful. I don't know why it's downloaded, but this was really helpful in understanding how to make a hexagonal map in Godot. So yeah, that's all I have to say, and the code will obviously be on GitHub. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for watching.